Hi, welcome to White Guy Show. I'm Whitey, and today I'm going to review the film in Bruges. I had no idea how exactly to pronounce this other than what they said in the film. In Bruges, I'll find out here in a second. I'm pulling it up. In Bruges. And it's got Colin Farrell in it. See, it's spelled in Bruges, like with an S, but I guess I don't think the S is in there. Or is that the joke? Let me just read this to you. After a particularly difficult job, hitmen Ray, Colin Farrell, and Ken Brendan Gleeson head to Belgium to hide out until things cool down. Ray hates the medieval city and oh my god. That's all you needed. It was Brendan Gleeson. I needed to find his name. It's directed by Martin McDonough, and the screenplay is by Martin McDonough. This is it's also got Ray Fiennes in it. Clements Posey, Jordan Prentice, a bunch of people, and I don't know how to say that name. He's been in so many movies. Okay, so what happens here is you have two Irish hitmen, played by Colin Farrell and the Brendan Gleeson guy, and I can't not spoil it. So my apologies, but Ray, the Ray character played by Colin Farrell, he goes to do, I believe it's supposed to be his first hit, and he's there to kill a priest. He's at a church, and he's like, "I'm here to beg forgiveness for my sins, Father." And he's like, "Who'd you kill?" And he's like, "You, Father." And he's like, "Eh?" And he's like, "Tell me the heart says hello." Pop, pop, pop. And he shoots the priest a bunch of times. And as the priest is stumbling away, he's shooting him in the back. Unbeknownst to Ray, the bullets are going through the priest and hit a little kid and kill him. Ray finds, who you don't see for like the first half hour, 45 minutes of the film. You only hear his voice on the radio, on the phone, and there's a note pinned to him. It says, "Go to Bruges." And so they go to Bruges, which is the small medieval city, I guess, in Belgium, which is like the oldest medieval city still remaining. And so they go there to hide out. It's around Christmas time. The city's packed. So they rent the only hotel room left. It's run by a pregnant lady. Oh my gosh, my screensaver. I'll turn this off. And so while there, a bunch of shit happens. Okay, so you got two hitmen hiding out in Bruges. Ray Fiennes is their boss. And the whole thing as you go on is you realize that Bruges is a metaphor. And it's a metaphor for purgatory. And they're in purgatory, and the whole thing is like the characters that they're gonna come across in this city aren't horrible people, aren't great people. And it's important. So Gleeson, the guy, he's a little older. Ray's supposed to be a younger guy, and they at one point, for example, they meet a midget, and someone's making a film in the city, and they kind of befriend this guy, become acquaintance of us, and at one point they're all coked up, and the midget starts going on about black midgets and how there's going to be a race war. Apparently he's been mistreated by black midgets. Didn't know that was a thing. And then later on, before that, Ray meets this pretty girl, but her and her boyfriend hold up tourists at gunpoint and steal their stuff, and everybody's doing drugs. But the gun isn't loaded with the bullets, so it's like, that's not good that you steal from people, but they don't murder people. And the midget guy, he's like, he's got some racial thoughts, but to our knowledge within the film, hasn't acted on this. He hasn't been violent towards anybody. So they have these flaws, but they aren't horrible people. So they're in purgatory. And I might pull out some spoilers, but probably not. So Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to do some. I have to do some spoilers just for you to understand the story. So Ray feels really bad. The younger guy, the younger hitman, he feels really bad that he killed this kid. He decides to take his own life. Ray finds his character, contacts the older hitman, and says, "You got to kill him, the Ray guy, because he killed a kid, and that's heat coming down on me or something, or just on principle, even though it was an accident." But when Brendan Gleeson shows up to kill Ray and sees the gun in his head, he stops him. And then the Ray finds out about this, so he comes to Bruges to do it himself. And so this really gets in. I'm trying to turn this thing off. It really gets into interesting territory because Ray Fiennes is either like metaphorical that he's the devil or like a demon. So he's coming to Bruges. It's kind of like the devil came to Bruges. And then at one point, Ray sitting there on a date with this lady. He just met this pretty girl, and she's smoking cigarettes, and that angers the guy next to him. Ray gets into a fight with the guy and kicks his ass. And then when Brendan Gleeson puts Ray on a train to get out of Bruges because Ralph Fiennes is on his way, the devil's coming to Bruges. The cops catch him because he beat up that other guy. And so he gets sent back to Bruges. So the way it's shot and everything, out in the country, and then train stop, so it's like Hotel California. You can check out, but you can't leave. So that happens, and I'm trying to figure out how much can I spoil without spoiling. Or anyway, so everything is allegorical, metaphorical, and a simile to purgatory. But what's interesting about this film is you've got three hitmen that we mentioned, but everything about them is atypical of hitmen. You know, they're like not dark blue. They're like the older guy, Brendan Gleeson. He's very either an older brother figure or like a fatherly figure to Ray, Colin Farrell. And Colin Farrell's like the fidgety kid. And there's a lot of parallels. There isn't a whole lot to the kid that he accidentally killed, but it had a note for why he was there. Because this wasn't a classroom, it was at the church, probably like a Catholic school, and it said, not paying attention, being fussy, bad at maths. And Ray is like the kid, so it's in a way, it's like he killed himself in a sense. So there's stuff like that. There's what's happening on the surface. It's two guys in Bruges, but it's a metaphor or something. But the best the good what makes this film work is it's not a comedy necessarily, but it's witty. It's a very witty, very Irish dialogue, and in that sense, it's really funny. So there's one point there again, you're in purgatory, so you weren't the worst, you weren't the best, and there's a lot of discussion about morality and the ambiguity of morality. And so at one point, Ray and Brendan Gleeson, they're sitting there talking about Brendan Gleeson had to kill. He's asking him, like, they come up with, did you ever kill anybody that wasn't a bad person? He's like, most of the people I've killed have been bad people, except for the one. He's like, who was that? Hey, it was him and his brother. Hey, he was what do you call him? A lollipop man. He was a lollipop man. A lollipop man is someone with special needs, so he's not 100% in there. And he's like, he was just trying to protect his brother. But he came out with a bottle. He's like, how you come out here with a bottle? Well, if he comes at you to bottle, you got to defend yourself. So the way the dialogue is just hysterical. It's just so atypical of what you would expect. So later on, Ray Fiennes shows up, runs into the Ray at the hotel, but the pregnant lady is sitting there at the stairs. Ray's upstairs, and she's like, I'm not letting you get past. Even though he's got Ray Fiennes has a gun and stuff. And so Colin Farrell's like, all right, I've got a plan. I'll go outside and jump in the, what's it called? The canal. Because there's a canal that comes right through town. It's like, I'll go out my window and jump into the canal. You go outside and chase me. And if you can shoot me, then so it is. But that way, we leave this lady out of the whole thing. And then Ray Fiennes is like, all right. Which way is the canal? Do I go out the right? He's like, oh, you guys gotta go outside. It's a big fucking canal, isn't it? And he's like, all right, I've just got here. And just, it's hysterical. You gotta watch it. It's slow paced. It's got actiony moments, but it's not an action film. It's all witty dialogue, and kind of makes you think a little bit. But I can't do it justice. You're just gonna have to see this film. So in Bruges, it's a lot of fun. One of the things that works within the logic of the film, but doesn't work in some ways, is there's a very much a racism theme. Racism is big theme in the film. And all three of these characters at one point lecture somebody about racism bad. But later on, at one point, the guy that Ray beats up, Ray's always crapping on Americans. And he's like, they killed John Lennon, didn't they? And he's like, talking about the Vietnam War. So he starts talking to this guy he thinks is an American. And he's like, well, what about Vietnam? And the guy's like, Vietnam, what are you talking about? He's like, Vietnam War. Turns out the guy's Canadian, not an American. So, again, you're in purgatory. So it's Ray's own prejudice. He's a hypocrite because he's always talking about, he goes on this lecture about racism bad at one point, and then he does it too. He's prejudiced towards Americans. And so in the logic of the film, it all makes sense, but I'm like, really? These guys get paid to kill people they don't even know, and racism is going to be a big hang-up? It's a stretch. But it works within the logic of the film. Because, again, like when the midget dude isn't an evil dude, he just has he just has a conversation where he's like, about black people, about a race war. But he's not running around killing somebody or something. So again, it's like, okay, this is one of the things where you're not quite bad, but you're not quite good. This could land you in purgatory. So within the logic of the film, it makes sense. But as in general, people who take money to murder people, that's a hang up they're gonna have. Like, it's not impossible. I haven't met any hitmen in my time. So again, it's not a pro and a con. It's just curious. It's just curious part of the film. It's like, that's their big thing. So, but again, it's a witty film, really well acted. It looks great. Getting actiony moments, but not an action film. And I recommend it. In Bruges was a lot of fun, especially if you're Irish. You're like, oh, listen to a little bit of language they're using there. Oh, hey, with the accents and that. Oh, it's so funny. So I'd recommend it. Check it out. Check out In Bruges. Unless you're like Eric over at Hey Internet, Eric here, and it has to be like Dolph Lundgren punching somebody's head in, you'll enjoy the film. So, and then check out Eric over at Hey Internet. It's Eric here. He's got a good review channel over there as well. We do some stuff together, and I gotta get over to his place and do some more reviews with the guy. So, once again, In Bruges. Go check it out. I enjoyed it, and I think you will too. Cheers. Oh, good journey. Bring that back.